Did you know that mastering shortcuts within Ableton 12 can speed up your productivity by around 50%? Welcome back to another video. My name is Mark, this is Digital Groove Online, and today I'm going to show you 16 tips that I know will speed up your productivity, so let's jump right in. The first shortcut we're going to look at is duplication. Now, duplication is just to take something within your project and make a copy of it. So let's say we want to duplicate this MIDI clip here. If we hold down Ctrl and D, that will duplicate that into the next slot. I'm just going to do Ctrl and Z just to undo that. Now, you can also click into the MIDI clip itself, and if you want to duplicate something with inside that, we can just select it and duplicate that as well by hitting Ctrl and D. Now, anytime I mention Control, if you're working on a Mac, you can just use Command to replace that. Okay, shortcut number 2 we're going to look at is Quantize. Now, quantizing is where we take the notes that have been recorded into a project or the audio and we snap it to the grid. I've already created a little MIDI clip here. If I double click inside it, we can see that all of these clips here are quantized at the minute to, if I right click, 16ths. Now let's say I want to quantize this to 8th notes. We can see that some of those are not sitting on the 8th note. Here, for example, here's another one, and here's another one here. All we do is Control A to highlight everything, and then Control and U, and that will snap it to the nearest grid. If you're playing something in live, it is highly unlikely that you will get it to sit bang on the grid, or as close to the grid. It may not sound like it's in time. So this tip will help you quantize it quickly. Tip number 3 is consolidation. Consolidation is where we take more than one clip and we make it one full clip. So an example of that would be, let's say I wanted to make this section one whole brick or clip within the project, which makes it easier to lift and arrange and things like that as we move through the project. All we do is highlight a selected area, and this can be with audio as well. We hit Ctrl and J, and that will consolidate that section into one clip. Tip number 4, or shortcut number 4, is going to be create new MIDI track and create new audio track. Okay, so Ctrl and T will create new audio, and Ctrl, Shift and T will create a new MIDI track. That will hopefully speed up rather than having to right click and insert or go over to here and add it in here also. Tip number 5 is record. So whenever we're recording into your project, let's say we're using the MIDI keyboard and we've got a synthesizer attached to it and we're ready to write it in real time. Just make sure that the track is armed over at the side, and the shortcut for recording is F9. And that just starts recording. Now that is not playing anything because I have not got anything attached to it. It's just recording the MIDI that I'm playing off the MIDI keyboard, the information that I'm playing. Okay, tip number 6 is grouping channels. Grouping channels is great, for example, if you have a lot of percussion loops, maybe 5 or 6 percussion loops within a project, and you want to group them all into one channel. So all we do is, I'm going to use these two, the effects and the claps, as an example. So if we hold down the effects and hold down Shift, what we can do is highlight those two tracks and hit Control and G. And what you can see now is that it turns it into its own little group. And when we fold that down and look at the mixer channel, we can see that we can control this now with one fader. Tip number 7, or shortcut number 7, is rename track. By hitting Ctrl and R, I wasn't selecting the right section there, but if I just select it again, this one here, if I hit Ctrl and R, I can type in kick. And just to speed up the workflow again, if you hit Tab, it will move to the next one and allow you to rename that. Tab again, and so on and so forth, and that will hopefully speed it up as well, rather than right clicking and renaming each track individually. The next tip is zooming in and zooming out. So at the minute I've got this whole section looped right here, And if I want to zoom in and zoom out, the plus and minus on your keyboard will allow me to do that. So that's another good tip for zooming in and out. Tip number 9 is to split the clip. So you might be working with a vocal or audio and you want to just create a split in that section, so you can maybe delete parts that are after it, or you just want to get rid of unwanted noise, maybe clicks and pops and things like that within the vocal, or for any other use within audio. You can do this with MIDI also. It's just to pick a section within the audio clip itself, and if I wanted to insert a split here, it is Ctrl and E, and that has created a little split there, and it allows me to control that. Now I'm just going to Ctrl Z everything as I put the project back to the way it was, but we can add splits anywhere in the project by just selecting an part of the project and hitting Ctrl and E, and that will split that down for you. Okay, the next one is to solo a track. Whichever track you're highlighting, you can just hit S and that will solo that track for you. Hit S again and it will take it off. So the letter S on the keyboard will allow you to solo that track. You can move up and down with your arrows on your keyboard and solo the next track. Okay, the next one is to arm the track for record. Earlier on I had mentioned that we had to make sure the record arm was on before hitting F9 to record into the project. We can turn that on with a shortcut by hitting the letter C. C will record arm that track, which means it's ready for recording into. And C will turn that back off again. And that is record arm. The next one that we're going to look at is shortcut 12, and that is to deactivate clips within your project. There might be areas within your project that you just don't want to commit to deleting, but we can turn them off so they don't play. And how we do that is by selecting either MIDI or audio and pushing the number 0 on your keyboard, and that will deactivate it. You'll see it's grey. So 0 will bring that back again. We can also select areas of audio and just 0 that as well. It doesn't have to be full clips, and that will just deactivate that and not play that particular sound when the timeline passes it. The next one that's quite handy is insert time, and insert time is going to be number 13 on the shortcut list. So let's just say I wanted to create a little bit of silence before this drops here, and we just want to make it this length here. We highlight the section within the project that we want to insert that silence, and we use the shortcut Ctrl and I. I'm just going to undo that. It has created silence, but I actually want to do it as it drops, so let's do it here. And if I just play that back, we should be able to hear the silence now. So that is inserting silence into your project. Tip number 14 is loop a section within your project. So if we wanted to just loop this section here, we can click on this MIDI clip and hit Ctrl and L, and that will just loop the section that we have selected, and you know that it's on because the loop brace markers have moved within the area that we have selected, and that the loop icon at the top is highlighted in yellow. Okay, we can also just left click anywhere and drag it to the length you want to loop on the project and hit Ctrl L as well, and that will also select and loop that area that you've told the project to do. Tip number 15 is show automation within the project. If you want to see automation within the project, you simply hit the button A, and that turns it on and off. I had it actually turned on there, which is why you saw the red lines. and this is the automation within the project. Anything that you drop down within the project, you will see automation. Let me just see if I have automation on anything really in here. It might have already been recorded in and bounced the audio. It may not have been, but we can just turn it off again by hitting A. Now if you hit A and it doesn't work, the automation lanes do not show. It's because the keyboard up here is selected. When you have this keyboard selected within the project, A then will trigger a key within the synthesizer or the instrument within the project that you're trying to use. So it actually thinks that you're trying to play a note. So that's why it will not show you the automation. If I hit A now, it'll not do anything. But if I turn this off and hit A again, we can see that we can look at the automation and turn it on and off. Okay, so just make sure that that does not catch you out. And the very last one is toggle session view and arrangement view. Now I really work within the arrangement view all the time. I very rarely work within session view. But if you like to build a little idea within session view and then transfer it to the arrangement view or work back and forward between the two, the shortcut for that is tab on your keyboard. So by hitting tab, it will go back between the mixer or the session view, and we tab again, it'll go back to the arrangement view, and we just keep hitting that and you can go back and forward between the two. So that's 16 tips that I've given you that I hope speed up your workflow. I will include them in the description for you so you can print them out and keep them close to you. And if we just start getting into the mindset of using those shortcuts, I promise you within a few short weeks of using those shortcuts and getting familiar with them, your productivity will go up by around 50%. There are plenty of other shortcuts that you can look at with it on the Ableton website. I'll also put a link below that so that you can look at the full shortcut list within inside Ableton. But I would focus on small amounts at the start and then branch off from there. So thanks very much for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed that video. I'm going to leave you with the actual music that I've created here just to finish off the video, and I will see you next week. Until next time.